Please go on mute if you're not talking or at the moment. Please do mute yourself. We are good to start.
Can we kickstart now, Colvin?
Yes, we can start. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Okay. So, yeah, welcome all. Good evening. It's a pleasure being with you, and thanks really for our invited speakers, and welcome also. Thank you very much for the attendees. We hope that this next 3 hours, they're not going to, we hopefully that is going to be, we won't feel the time, and hopefully it's going to be engaging. Yes, Felix, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Good to be with you here, and looking forward to engaging and knowledge advancing discussions today. So welcome, everyone.
Hey, thank you. I would like, sorry. The first actually slide, I would like a bit to very quick to introduce our whom we are going to be to have today. So just a brief entry about myself. My name is Nashwa. I'm a researcher in Imperial College of London, and I'm also a digital education convener with Maira, and this event actually it is a joint between our SIG, the digital education, and also with the artificial emotions in AI as well. So that is going to be about myself. Also, we have Dr. Felix. He's a senior lecturer in transition education at King's College London. We have, I'm going just to say the names here, the order I'm going to follow for the speakers based on the alphabet of the first name. Then we're going to have an alphabet of the country, so we make it even. So Dr. Selar, she is a manager of quality assurance and accreditation at University of Kurdistan, Hawler, and also she is a lecturer at Erbil Polytechnic University. Her research interests in higher education reform, quality assurance, and accreditation of higher education, and she is alumni from Southampton University in the UK. Dr. Shumaila, also she is alumni from University of Southampton here. She is an educator and researcher specializing in curriculum critical thinking, academic integrity in University of Education in Lahore, Pakistan. We should have Dr. Maira as well. I'm not sure she might be a bit late, but Dr. Maira, when she is a postdoc research associate in AI and education at King's College London, and she is going to talk about the case study from her country as well. The last not the least, Dr. Yara Abdelaty. She's a lecturer in linguistics in Port Said University in Egypt. Her research explore integrating AI and digital tools into language education, and also she is passionate about enhancing teaching methodologies and fostering innovation in higher education. Actually, I placed the globe because I think we are going through different places on Earth, so it's really amazing, really, with having you today. Our agenda is a bit packed today, so we are starting by the welcome and opening remarks. We were going to set up the scene, Dr. Felix and myself, and then we will go for the case studies from each country. So we'll go for a nice round in the world from the east to the west. Also, there is a break because the time is long, and then we'll go for the open discussion. It's going to be across all of us, yourselves, the attendees, you'll have the opportunity to ask between the speakers and the chairs, and also we'll have a reflection and takeaways. We'll expect also people will be interactive, so and the session will be interactive, not you, but you'll have a Mentimeter activity just to share our thoughts actually. So first of all, actually, we will start by why contextually sensitive and responsible GenAI matters. And this actually, I'm going to talk first about like some ideas broadly, and then I leave it to Felix, who will take us to the deep dive out of it. But really, during my reading in the last few weeks and months about the GenAI, and I found really the culture have an impact on how we are understanding the AI and using it, so its impact as well. So the UNESCO 2025 report looked at the GenAI is really like a double-edged sword, where it might be used in a good way to conserve the culture. It might be used to, for example, maintain the historical heritage in a place, or it might be used in a way to increase the security and safety. That's a positive use. However, in the same report also addressed that the AI might pose significant risk on the culture, about the inequality, about deepening the diversity in a negative way, about the biases, about accelerating also the homogenization of the culture, and that might be a risk as well. And that is for the UNESCO report. Another interesting paper, which actually you can find it, it's an open public domain, the paper. It's really looking at the context about the how the countries divided the globe actually between two different places, about the high context countries and the low context. But it looks at where the individualistic culture and the collectivist culture. So the individualist culture is more likely to resist AI, because the way that they look at the AI is more attaching to the person, about how the effect could be the autonomy, decision making, about the privacy. So they found the individualist culture more likely to resist AI when it appears to replace human judgment or personal expertise. Another culture, which is a collectivist culture, where it's more concerned about the community. The collectivist, actually, when AI is perceived as a capable here of maybe affecting the community, so tend to be more accepting the AI because it aligns with the group norms or the consensus. So it might accept it and it might reject it if it does not. So here, the first group, individualist, that they are looking at the person and the AI, while the other, that they look at the society and the community and the AI, and each one of them, which will lead the person, the individual, or the community to a different direction, again, about using the AI. So that's about more broadly, but I'm pretty sure, Felix, you would like to add more about the AI and in a different direction, maybe. Yeah, what do you think?
Thank you very much, Nashwa. You're right. AI and our local context and cultures are quite linked in different ways. I'm going to talk about how this connects to ways of knowing and local epistemologies in our different contexts, and why that is something important to think about when we talk about AI. In 2020, the CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, talked about, he basically made a statement that AI is the most profound thing that humanity is working on at the moment. And he made the claim that it's more profound than fire and electricity, or any bigger things that humanity would have worked on. Now, by making that claim, he was, of course, talking about, at least, it's also at the same time a claim about what matters. So what kind of knowledge matters. So what kind of things we are working on at the moment that matter for different contexts. But when you think about if AI is really going to be as transformational as, or even close to this level of transformation, then how we approach it is going to be very important, because it is the way it is built, the way AI is built from a particular epistemological viewpoint. It is being built from a perspective of who controls what knowledge, what a means of controlling this, this technology. Now, there are knowledges or types of knowing that are being used to build these technologies, which means without us starting to question how that is representing our context, ways of knowing, and the epistemologies we cherish, then it's going to become a problem, because we may end up either our ways of knowing being underrepresented, and there is already research to suggest that certain contexts are either underrepresented or misrepresented when it comes to how AI tools are trained and programmed to work. Of course, that brings in different cultural stereotyping and everything, because the values that are embedded in this way of building AI are going to be representative of who is building that technology. So for us, working in education, in our own context, in higher education, especially in across different contexts, where we are also promoting certain ways of knowing, because we are educating learners who are going to be working in those contexts and even beyond. If we end up then, again, AI is almost everywhere, as they say. So it's inescapable. I think that's what some people, the claim some people are making. Now, assuming that this is true, then we are ending up in a world where, or at least training our students potentially to adopt tools that at some point may erase or get them to embrace ways of knowing that not only misrepresent them, but also undermine who they are. And so this is where then, as educators, we have to be able to respond with a better approach to how do we use these tools that could potentially misrepresent who we are, our ways of knowing in context, by bringing in new ways of understanding and knowing that are alien to the way people live in the context we live, the way people are in the context we work in, and bring about a better approach that will make us make the best of this technology without undermining our own epistemology. So one of the things I want us to be thinking about is exactly that link between the local epistemologies, the local way of knowing, and our approaches to AI, and how we make those two work together, knowing how AIs are built. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Felix. It's really insightful, and it's really, although it's an AI very technology, but is really looking at the culture. It's really will make a lot about thinking about the AI. So that's really insightful. So we will, before we lead to our guests, let's all of us think about why this topic is contextually sensitive and responsible GenAI matters. So this is a Mentimeter. So if you don't mind, please, just either you can, with your mobile, take the QR code, all of us, maybe including the chairs and speakers and the attendees, of course, and in a few statement, it's an open-ended question. So, right, why you think this is important? So I'm going also, I can actually share yes, I think. Maybe take this one down, but I can take it here. Yeah. So, and that is so this is a QR code, and this is the, it should appear here. So Yes, please. If you start to type why you think this matters, that will be great. So if we write anything, try to, write why you think. So let's give this one 3-4 minutes to write why you think this is an important topic. Going to start with myself and just do.
Now, while people are trying to type, I can see some
So there is an
contributions
answer
already.
here. Determine the culture, notion, ethics, and identity. Yes. I mean, we know that at the time, so I mean, don't worry about it, a typo or something. I think we all acknowledge that that might be a case. So just write whatever that the idea will come to your mind. Sorry, Felix, I think you were saying something. Apologies.
Yeah, so I want to say you can think about this at different levels. So you can also think about this at a personal level, why it matters to you, or why it matters to your context more broadly, or your institution where you work or you're based, depending on how you want to approach it. Or you can approach it at all those levels, because we are also engaging with the topic as individuals, as people who belong to certain contexts, and as professionals who work in a particular context as well. So all that applies.
Yeah, that's very true. Yes, exactly. Every point you mentioned now, it flags me something about why this matters. Yeah, there is a scale, and actually, I can actually make this one bigger so we all can read. So yeah, there are good responses. So we expect a lot of people, all people, I think. So if we say more than one, each person will say one, maybe 2 dimensions or 2 scales. I think that will be a lot. So let's leave this for about 2 minutes, and then it's this question is open till the next question toward the end of the session. So please think about it and keep on, because I think these are really it's an important point to think about it. Either researchers, students, staff, individuals in the community. I think parents, teachers. So I think it's important thing why contextually sensitive and responsible use it matters. So let's another 2 minutes maybe. And then we can move to the next topic.
I like the identity crisis risk.
Yeah, you know what? I remember I was giving a workshop about the AI in one of the countries, and I was asking the people, I think that was Selar, I think that was there. So one of the people, I said, okay, let's go, can we go for a collaboration? I was saying, okay, I'm from the UK, and so we make a collaboration. And that one of the answers, it was really inspiring, one of the attendees, it was, I think, staff. He said, no, we need to know ourselves first. We need to set up the boundaries before we are open to the world. That's really strike me that the answer. It's like, yeah, because I think this is a risk. Maybe the person didn't mention about the crisis, but that was what was in mind. Yeah. Okay, so because of the time, I think this question is open. So keep on feeding into it. And I think we can go to our speakers now, and we go to take the flight and go to different places. And let's start with you. So with Yara. So the order here is going to be per country, alphabetical. So the introduction was per person, alphabetical, but now it's per country. So now it's down to you, Dr. Yara. Dr. Yara, she's from University of Port Said in Egypt. So I'm going to maybe stop sharing, and now it's your time slot, Yara. So are the slides with Gavin or with yeah?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself, and floor is yours now, Yara.
Thank you so much, Nashwa. Thank you, Felix. Thank you for having me today, and for this invitation and the seminar, for organizing this seminar on this very, very important topic, and which is also very engaging topic. And we all talk about this, how we use GenAI responsibly and how to make sensitive GenAI practices. And today I'm going to focus on the Egyptian context. Okay, so I decided to share some preliminary findings from an ongoing study that I'm currently analyzing, and I have some telling cases that I decided to share with you today, which I think they relate to the seminar's topic, which is very much connected with it, because they show that sensitive GenAI practices is not only about using AI responsibly, as I said, but also about protecting learner agency, their identity, and their authorial voice and ownership in educational contexts. So could you please move to the next slide? Okay, so why, in relation to the question you just raised, why this topic matters? I'm going to focus about specifically the focus of my study, which is about second language writing, and why using ChatGPT in this context matters. So in relation to that, the answer is always about, it matters because debates about using GenAI in second language writing always about GenAI in writing, how we always overcome its risks. Okay, so the common debate is always about this. Always we hear concerns about plagiarism, academic integrity, and the over-reliance on AI. And these are, of course, they are very important concerns. But still, we need just to move slightly from talking too much about the concerns and the misuse of GenAI to another thing about learner agency, okay? So there is less attention on things like learner agency, authorial voice, how AI shouldn't erase the students' meaning or stance or personal expression, also learner identity, and how the feedback should fit the feedback that they receive on the writing, how it should fit their needs and language level and confidence, and also about the ethical human AI collaboration, how AI can support revision, but students and teachers still need to evaluate whether the feedback they receive on the writings, on the students' writings, is appropriate or not. So responsible AI use is not just about avoiding AI completely, about focusing only on the risks and how to minimize using it. It's about how using it thoughtfully. Okay, so in my study, sensitive GenAI practice means asking questions like, is the feedback that students get from AI on their essays, is it understandable? Is it useful? Is it appropriate for their level? And does it still remain, like, does it keep still the real or the author's identity? Does it preserve it or not? Okay, so so the debate needs, as I said, needs to move from AI risk alone to hear learners how they evaluate and adapt and own AI feedback thoughtfully. Next slide, please. Okay. So as I said, yeah, so the issue is not simply are students using AI or not. The more important question is, can students use AI while maintaining ownership of their writing? And this is actually the question guiding this presentation. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what are sensitive GenAI? Okay, so this is a working definition I give to it. I think it's they are ethical and context-aware uses of AI that support learning while respecting student agency, authorial voice, learner identity, and human decision-making. As I said, this is in the context of second language writing. So it's about respecting students' agency, authorial voice, learner identity, and human decision-making. And again, I'm stressing the key idea that responsible AI is not about avoiding AI, it's about using it thoughtfully. In the next slide, I'm going to give a bit of context about the research background. So please, next slide. Okay, so research on ChatGPT use in second language writing always talk about its benefits and its concerns in relation to, on the benefit side, we always know that there are so many studies that talked about that how ChatGPT can provide grammar support and vocabulary suggestions and can give immediate feedback, which is useful immediate feedback, and also can increase students' confidence as writers. Okay, and but the concerns are also, there are so many studies that reported some concerns that AI feedback actually may create problems. It can lead to over-independence, loss of authorial voice. It can also threaten authorial voice, as I said, and it can reduce learning opportunities. Okay, so these are some pedagogical promise and ethical tension that we can see both sides, like reported in research recently, in recent research. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so for my study, okay, I collected data from 16 Egyptian EFL students who were participating in academic writing course I was teaching, and they were drafting multiple types of writing, like compare and contrast essays, cause and effect essays, and then they were asked to revise their essays based on the ChatGPT feedback. So they write their essays alone in class. I had to control this to make sure that they're not cheating, they're not. I have to see this myself, and then I asked them to use the ChatGPT to revise their own essays. And they did this from the comfort of their homes, and I did like one-to-one meetings with them while they are actually revising their essays, and I had to screen record the session on Zoom and see how they are interacting with the ChatGPT feedback. And then that was followed by stimulated recalls in which I was trying to ask them promptly how they see the feedback, how that they get from the ChatGPT. So, and the focus, so the data sources that I collected were multiple data sources, and I did triangulation for these data sources. I have the Google Docs revision history, so they were drafting their essays using in Google Docs, and then they were revising using the ChatGPT feedback. So I also asked them to share the ChatGPT logs with me and the screencast recordings, of course, and then reflective. And then I asked them to write actually reflective journal after they finished the session, what type of feedback they accepted and what type of feedback they rejected and why. Okay, and then that was always also followed by retrospective interviews. They were pre-intermediate EFL students, and the focus was how they negotiated the AI feedback. Okay, so next slide. So actually, the preliminary findings that I found, this is what I found. So the main cross-case finding that the students didn't engage with ChatGPT feedback in one simple way. They actually negotiated with it in different ways. So some of them were fully accepting the feedback. They trusted the ChatGPT feedback mainly for surface level issues like grammar, mechanics, vocabulary, academic phrasing, things like that. And some of them were resisting the feedback. So students, some of them were really refusing the feedback, especially when it turns to change the meaning or opinion, or trying to rephrase the whole thing that they wanted to say in terms of content, I mean, in terms of ideas. Okay, so when it's trying to change the authorial voice, they were resisting this type of feedback. Some of them were filtering, so they were the feedback, so they were selecting only feedback that matches their level, goals, and rubric expectations, because I was giving them a rubric and they have to send the ChatGPT a prompt asking them to give feedback according to this specific rubric, which is Jacob's rubric. It's a very well-known one used in ESL writing courses. So I had to control the type of prompts they ask the ChatGPT to give, because I wanted this to be more controlled and see how the feedback, how they are interacting with that. And others were always also internalizing the feedback. So they were, those type of students were turning the feedback receiving process, seeking and receiving as learning journey. So through by comparing their original drafts to the feedback that they get, they were doing kinds of self-talk. So while I was interacting with them on screen, they were talking to themselves. I was thinking they were talking to me. Actually, they were trying to learn. They were talking to themselves, and this is a type of technique that shows that students learn when they do some kind of self-talk. Research says this is a very important type of learning technique. And also some of them were taking notes on aside from the screen, because they said, I want to remember this later on if I write my next essay. So yes, so these are the main themes, or the emerging themes that I found. So GenAI practice, as I come up with this, that they should help students judge AI feedback, not simply obey this type of feedback. Okay, so next slide, please. So the key point that I wanted to make here, that although some students were fully accepting the feedback, okay, we might think that this is type of learning. No, acceptance is not always learning, and resistance is not always failure. Resisting the feedback that they get from the ChatGPT is always doesn't mean it's a type of failure. It means that students are trying to think, negotiating the feedback, and trying to select and choose what type of feedback I can adopt and why, and what type of feedback I should reject, and it shouldn't change my authorial voice and my identity as a writer. Okay, next slide, please. So across cases, these are some of student voices showing how they were negotiating the feedback. So some of these quotes I collected from either the stimulated recalls or some of their logs with the ChatGPT. Okay, so I have recordings for all of this. Some of them literally said to the ChatGPT, don't change my ideas. And another student said, I want this essay to sound like me. Keep the vocabulary at my level. I don't take words that are not at my level. I like to go step by step. Correct grammar only. I want to have my own touch. I don't want anyone to erase what I have done. So across cases, as you can see, the students were trying to set boundaries. They used prompts and set boundaries to protect meaning, level, and their authorial voice. So they were not taking the feedback they get from ChatGPT at face value. They were still trying to have their own voice and protect meaning and protect their authorial voice and identity as writers. Okay, next slide, please. And this is, I choose two telling cases that I found interesting. I give them pseudonyms. We have the first one, his name is Omar. Okay, so Omar here, as you can see, this is a screenshot from his chat with the ChatGPT. He said to the ChatGPT, the thesis statement is vague, no problem, but I want you to make it clear, not change. Okay, so he's asking the ChatGPT to give him a clearer version of the thesis statement, but don't change the meaning, don't change his words. When I asked him in the stimulated recall why you said this to the ChatGPT, he said to this, I don't take words that are not at my level. I like to go step by step. So the screenshot actually shows how Omar setting limits for ChatGPT. His recall quote explains why he filtered AI feedback according to his level and learnability and ownership of the text. So basically, he was using ChatGPT as a controlled writing assistant, not as a replacement writer. Okay, so next slide, please. And this is actually, here I try to interpret Omar's response through Vygotsky's idea of zone of proximal development. I guess many of you might know this construct, which is part of the sociocultural theory by Vygotsky, which refers to the space between what a learner can already do independently and what they can do with the support that they receive. And in this case, Omar, ChatGPT can act as a form of support, but only when the feedback is close enough to the learner's current level. So when he said, I don't take words that are not at my level, I like to go step by step, he's not rejecting the ChatGPT feedback completely, but instead he's filtering the type of feedback he wants to get from the ChatGPT. Okay, so he values the feedback still that he receives from the feedback, but he still wants it to be learnable and usable, and he wants to use it later. So he is so selective in his uptake in for this type of feedback that he gets from ChatGPT. Next slide, please. And this is also another example, okay, from the data. Salma is also a pseudonym, and she's also trying to preserve the meaning. She was trying to resist any kind of change to the meaning in her essay. So in Arabic, she was saying something which means, are you sure that this is the, I have to correct this? Do you, I think it doesn't matter, it's not that useful. Okay, so I wanted, and I asked her why you said this to the ChatGPT. She said, I wanted to have my own touch. I don't want anyone to erase what I have done. Again, this shows how Salma was questioning whether a suggested correction was necessary or not. And her recall explains why she wanted ChatGPT to improve the text without changing her authorial voice. So it wouldn't be considered a kind of disengagement. Still, the students are engaged with the ChatGPT feedback, but in a responsible and a thoughtful way. And next slide, please. Okay, so these preliminary findings, I'm still analyzing the data, and I have some other cases. I'm still reading and immersing myself in the data. But these preliminary findings that I found have some implications for EFL educators toward sensitive and learner-controlled GenAI practice. The students need guidance to evaluate AI feedback, not simply accept it in the context of second language writing. So they need to question AI, ask why a suggestion is better before fully accepting it, okay? And they also need to protect their voice, reject changes that alter or change meaning, stance, or identity. And they also need to control level, request vocabulary and feedback that matches their students' level, okay? And also use for learning students and save useful feedback and apply it in future writing. This is also very important, that we always give the students orientation, that it's not just one short session that that you will not use this later. I want you to take this process of learning from GenAI, that you can use this in future situations, okay? So so the goal is not AI dependence, the goal is AI supported writer development, okay? Next slide. So to conclude, students should remain authors of their own learning and writing, and the main message that I wanted to give today is that sensitive GenAI use is not about whether students use AI, it's about whether students remain the authors of their own learning and writing. And if a student limits ChatGPT to grammar correction and rejects change, this is a question I wanted to give to you. It's a discussion question. If a student limits ChatGPT to grammar correction and rejects change that alter their voice, do you think, and should this be considered ethical AI-assisted writing or not? And thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Yara. This is very insightful, and I think the question is really worth it needs a session to discuss. Thank you very much. So I'm aware of the time, so we're going to go for the next. I'm going to follow, guys, according to the agenda, who will present. I thought that I should make it in a different way, alphabet, but let's stick with the agenda, the order of the speakers. So because maybe people, attending the session for a specific topic. So according to the agenda is going to be Dr. Selar from Kurdistan. So Yara, Kurdistan region of Iraq. So if you'd like to share your screen or the slides, Ms. Maira, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah, floor is yours.
Thank you everyone for joining the webinar. May I ask to share the, yes, thank you. Well, we are going to talk about some of the initiatives regarding generative AI in the Kurdistan region. I'm specifically talking about University of Kurdistan, Hawler. As an introduction, we know the growing demands of generative AI and technology. So if we compare what we had 2 years or maybe 4 years ago, it is totally different from what we have right now. And because Kurdish language is widely used as a mother tongue in the region, it's a language for learning at work, for communication, whatever aspects of life it is widely used. And in this digital age and time, we need to craft and create a lot of digital tools and GenAI for the purpose of facilitating communication, performance, and learning, especially in educational establishments, whether in schools or universities. This urges the need for designing a variety of generative AI tools in order to meet the demands of the users. If we go to the next slide, we talk about the generative data in reverse to culture, language, and education. Well, the available tools that we have globally that we are aware of, these tools are based on international, let's say, codes. For example, English language, because most of the tools that we have, they are available mainly in English language. And that means the tools are based on, let's say, English language, English culture, English programs. So it is a bit difficult to adapt these tools to another language, for example, to Kurdish language, because there are a lot of differences in culture, in community codes, in every aspect of life. Such data are used in order to preserve the culture, language, and education specifically for that nation. Okay, so that means there's a big gap and bias. For example, if you use generative AI of English language based to another culture, for example, Kurdish culture, Kurdish language, Kurdish education. So we see that there's a big difference in the varieties, in the codes, in even the prompts that, for example, if we give, let's ask a generative AI tool to give you, for example, a presentation about a Kurdish language or Kurdish culture, but in Kurdish language. The data are a bit different from the actual, let's say, language that we usually speak and daily speak. For example, in schools, international schools abroad, let's say if we talk about UK, the approach of teaching is mostly student-based, learner-based. That means the generative AI tools that are, for example, if we want to ask an application or a tool to give us data about the specific aspects of learning and education in the UK, it will give you the information that is based on student-centered learning, which is totally different from the teaching approach that we have here in our schools. So this is an example of how differences can be there in the data of tools between two cultures. So what is missing here is exactly Kurdish data. If we go to the challenges, the next two slides, please. According to challenges, okay, I think this is the one before, after that. After. Yes, please, thank you. According to my interview with the developers and people who are working on developing these tools, the most common challenges that I have got from them is the scarcity of high quality digitalized Kurdish database. This is the most common problem that they face in order to create any tools, specifically in Kurdish language. The second one, we have lack of financial support because all of these developers, they are working individually. So there's no kind of institution or a government or any establishment to support such kind of, let's say, activities. One of the other biggest challenges is in Kurdish language, we have 5 main dialects, and in each dialect we have a lot of varieties. In total, we have 20 varieties in these 5 main dialects in Kurdish language. So Sakine, for example, if I make a comparison between Irish English and British English, so there's a lot of differences between these 2 dialects. The other thing that I think at the beginning of the webinar, Nashwa referred to in one of the workshops, she said we need first to know what is, for example, what we need. People are still not familiar with using AI and generative AI. This is one of the challenges because still people need to know. People still need to have knowledge about generative AI, what is difference between AI and generative AI, how to use it, for what purposes. So there are lots of, let's say, kind of knowledge is missing for those people who are interested in using generative AI and developers even. If we go to an advanced level, lots of information and knowledge still missing. Okay, now I go back to the baseline that the University of Kurdistan has worked on well, they called it a dictionary, but I prefer to call it an encyclopedia of English, of Kurdish language. That encyclopedia contains codes of Kurdish language in many different aspects of life. For example, in language, poetry, culture, religion, education. So there are many words. What I've learned from them, it is more than 48,000 images, that is letters of Kurdish language, are available in that encyclopedia. And the work is still going on to prepare that encyclopedia. There's also 500,000 Kurdish words based on academic and reliable books and resources to upload all these materials into the internet to build kind of store for Kurdish language. The work still, as I said, this has been achieved in the last, I think, 6 months, because that Center of AI and Innovation in the university has been launched 2 years ago. And I think it was the first AI center in all the Kurdish universities. The aim of that center is to preserve the culture and language, which is Kurdish language. And within that encyclopedia, there's also the services of, let's say, transferring images into words and, let's say, writing into audio. They'll also plan to build a kind of chatbot that can be available 24/7. That's all the day. The other thing in that encyclopedia, it has it has the service to be open access to everyone. It's not only for the university, it will be open for the whole community and accessible by everyone. Some of the samples, the other samples, in addition to the one I talked about, this encyclopedia of the university, through my network, I've been told about these other generative AI tools that are available. For example, we have Mitmana AI. It is used for preparing slides for presentations. And for example, it can be used mostly by students and researchers, those who prefer to use Kurdish language, because not everyone is using English language for all the departments and every fields. And you can, for example, upload documents in English language, and it will change it to Kurdish language after translation. It has some other criterias. The other thing is some of the academic institution or educational institutions, they have established a chatbot to be available for users, maybe for students, for staff. And we have also that one, the most interesting one, though I put it at the end. The Pharma Assist is a generative AI was built by a 17 years old student. It is mostly used for medical purposes, available in Kurdish, English, and Arabic languages. And it provides a lot of information that is requested by the users. So that is all I think I have concerning generative AI. These are the samples that I'm aware of, because I'm absolutely sure there are many other, let's say, Gen AI tools that can be used, especially for learning and educational purposes. But mostly these are the main, or let's say the ones that are used by people, and people are more familiar with it. Thank you so much. And I think I've done.
Thank you
Nashwa
very
and
much,
Felix.
Selar. Yeah, thank you very much, Selar. It's very, again, another interesting and insightful presentation from the Kurdish context. And just to let you know, guys, if you have any question, we are going to, the discussion is going to be after all the guest speakers. They will showcase their studies. So if you have any question, I mean, at the moment, you can, I think, use the chat box so we can collect them. But we have a good opportunity that to discuss everything later on. So now I think it is according to the program that's going to be Shumaila, I think. So Shumaila from University of Education in Lahore, Pakistan. So Shumaila, welcome. And the stage is yours. You are muted. We can't hear you. No, still we can't hear you. It's muted. It shows you actually. Don't know. Is it muted as well? It's interesting because you show the icon shows that it's unmuted, but I don't know. I can't hear you. Anyone can hear Shumaila? No, we can't hear you. It shows that it's unmuted, but no, we still can't hear you. Sorry.
I think it's the headphones you're using, Shumaila. If you don't use them, you might be able to communicate with us, I think.
Disconnected and just leave it to the device you're using.
I hope that I'm audible now.
Yes, good to go.
You are.
To me.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for these insights. And I would start with my presentation from here. I would like to talk a bit about Pakistani culture. And even before that, my heartfelt gratitude to the Yara team, especially to Felix and Nashwa. I would like to make a little bit of acknowledgement statements that my study is limited to a single public university at the moment, though I am in the process of gathering wider data and representation of university students in this study. AI tools, some of them were used to image generation in this presentation, and they have been properly acknowledged. And also some personal observations, literature review gaps, and day-to-day classroom discussions have shaped this study. And some study themes are also limited to the literature review in the area of gender sensitivity. Well, we all talk about culture, and how Nashwa has already beautifully summarized that, culture is a very sort of, it's about the identity, and we have also talked about the risk of identity crisis in the age of generative AI. So my perspective in this study was that the culture is actually shaped by the youth, and if we look at the population of Pakistan, 26 to 30% are in the age bracket of 18 to 26 or 30 years old. So The trend that we are having here in Pakistan, one of the 5th largest populous country in the world, is that there are going to be, in the next 10, 20 years, the youth is going to shape the culture of the country. Of course, the ever-expanding use of generative AI since the last 2 years has evolved a lot, and there are certain inherent biases which have been reported in many reports. For example, in the International Research Center on Artificial Intelligence from the UNESCO report 2024 has actually reflected on this big gap. Of course, the observations of AI usage, literacy, and perceived limitations of the tools, and with the treatment of Pakistani culture, there are certain local studies who have reflected on it as well. Of course, we all know that artificial intelligence tools are being widely used, and specifically in Pakistani context, it is quite interesting to know that it is a bilingual country. It's a country which has deep roots with the colonization, and we use English as a day-to-day communication language at workplace, in our daily lives, in our social interactions. In terms of university, the teaching is in English language. The assessments are designed in English language, and academically in ACIs, it is supposed, it's understood that English is going to be the mode of communication in all professional and academic. So my focus in this study was to explore how the university students actually use generative AI tools, and to find out what perspectives and self-reported experiences they are facing related to their cultural identity or gender sensitivity, and how they see the Pakistani culture is being represented in generative AI outputs. And finally, I would like to reflect why these can be opportunities for inclusiveness or a risk to cultural identities and gender sensitivity. My study here was using exploratory qual and quant mixed method research design. In the qual phase, in my classrooms, we did classroom discussions and certain practice sessions, how students are interacting with the generative AI tools, what kind of outputs they are using, language. Sometimes they would be using, 2 languages, like their own Pakistani language or their Pashtun language, because in terms of language, Pakistan also has a huge diversity in dialects, in languages, and in certain ways of culture as well. So on the base of the qualitative phase, tool was designed with the help of the themes that came out of those discussions with the students, and then 5 major areas upon the role of generative AI in Pakistani university students were identified. So the questionnaire that was developed had 5 dimensions: educational use of generative AI, cultural awareness and representation in AI, gender sensitivity and inclusiveness in AI, critical AI literacy and ethical awareness, and institutional support and responsible AI use. Here is some pre-checks for the reliability of the questionnaire, which were satisfactory, I must say, with this small sample size. So here is some quantitative results that I want to share here. And interestingly, on the 5 dimensions, we did a little bit of quant analysis, and I saw if there is a difference in gender wise in any opinions of the students or perspectives on the use of AI. Quite interestingly, the mean for the did not vary much. I have
Shumaila, can I interrupt you a bit? Sorry.
Yes,
we cannot see the slides.
okay.
Well, we can see the first slide, but the rest are not. We can't see them, so we weren't able to track the. And I think someone did raise the same question in the. Okay, thank you. Now we can see that them moving. Thank you.
Okay. So is it okay? We are on the same page?
Oh, we are on acknowledgement statement now.
Oh, okay. It's going a bit slower in that sense. So I will go slowly again, and please do let me know.
I think it is. It doesn't move as you move, so maybe just you need manually
Maybe
make it.
yes, let me share it again, probably, then that would help.
Thanks for flagging this, Felix.
Yeah, thank you, Felix. Yes, please let me know if these are running smoothly now. I am on the research methods. Can you see the focus of the study?
Yes, yes, we
Okay,
can see
research
moving
methods.
between, so
Yeah.
research methods, yeah.
Okay, I think when I run it on a slideshow, probably that's the reason. So I would just go with this version of the. So can you see the reliability of the instrument slide now, everyone?
Yes.
Please.
If they're not
Yes.
moving, I'll raise my hand. I think that would be the sign.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So overall gender differences, we try to look at if the students, male and female, have different perspectives or perceptions about AI, different dimensions of use. So we saw that in terms of specifically cultural awareness and representation in AI for the Pakistani students in this university, the mean scores were not very much different, but little bit higher for the females. In terms of gender sensitivity and inclusiveness in AI, the mean of the male participants were higher than the female. And in terms of institutional support and responsible AI use, again, the male students actually perceived it higher in terms of their resources or in terms of trainings, etc. So this is the table which is actually showing, interestingly, I was expecting, my assumption was that the opinions would be quite kurtosis-wise, or they would be really concentrated in one end or the other, like strongly agree or disagree. But here, as you can see in the n number of data as well, they are quite dispersed, and people are having different kinds of opinions, and which is quite interesting in terms of Pakistani students' use of AI and how they look at it. And some statements are also here for you. And here I have done a small use of generative AI tools to see what they think about cultural awareness and the representation in AI. So in those, all of those items, you could see here that the question 4 had the highest mean and the question 3 had the lowest mean in the data. So if you look at the statement here, so we could see that, the question 3 is, I have noticed GenAI tools using stereotypes when discussing South Asian cultures, traditions, or societies. So it seems like people are somewhat not aware of these type of content analysis, or they are not consciously looking into AI outputs in that way. One reason could be they are primarily using it for educational purposes, etc. And later on the call data, we will see some interesting statements from the students as well. So again, cultural awareness, and here, if you could see negative critical experiences that the respondent actually shared with us, they were about the use of generative AI on 4 items, and which are going to be expressed here. As you can see, they were also asked some open-ended questions in this questionnaire as well, and we asked them, have you felt culturally some responses from the AI tools were insensitive, stereotyped, or dismissive of Pakistani or South Asian perspectives? Some of the interesting quotes the students actually said, and there were, again, a wide range of opinion there. Some said, no, it depends on the prompt, I didn't receive anything. But some said that they are too general or based on stereotypes. For example, they assumed all families follow the same tradition, they have same lifestyle, or they can also felt that they could be dismissive of Pakistan and South Asian culture, values, and perspectives. This is also again a student asked advice, and it suggested that the student should move out of parents' house to gain independence. And this is the student's response. This felt culturally insensitive because in Pakistani culture, living with family is a sign of respect, not dependence. Then AI clearly applied a Western mindset to my situation without considering our cultural values. This experience made me realize that AI tools still have biases and do not fully understand South Asian perspective. Again, gender sensitivity and inclusiveness in AI. We could see that the opinions are quite dispersed here, and with the lowest opinion on a Likert scale is dispersed between agreement and, sometimes they find these kind of instances where they are looking at gender stereotypes or women issues or responses, and a different type of education, and assuming that traditional cultures have, gender-related binary understanding. This is again the spread of the student opinions on a scale. It's a stacked bar chart about the gender sensitivity and inclusiveness. And here also we see that the reinforcement of gender stereotypes, which is the last here, question 3, it has the lowest means, which means people are showing some kind of disagreement, or they are show to the statement. These are the key themes that have been evolved specifically because I'm focusing in this presentation on gender sensitivity and inclusiveness in generative AI tools. So these are certain key points which came out of the students' written data, or their qualitative or detailed answers to open-ended questions. So 8 themes came out of it related to lack of local cultural awareness, oversimplification of gender diversity, traditional gender roles, masculine pronouns still being heavily coming out, natural but still neutral but still biased. That's a very sort of sensitive layering that came out of student data, and interesting to look deeper into. Okay. If the audience is all right, we have Adhan time here, and if they are okay, I could continue, and if they want to take a break for 2 minutes to hear this, if that's not an issue.
What do you think, guys? Can you hear well, or can she continue, or we can? I don't know what the heart. What does it? Shall we wait, or she can continue? Okay. The prayer call might last for about 2 minutes. Okay, so there is. It's okay. I think it's okay. So go ahead.
Right. Thank you. Okay. So. So we also asked what kind of responses that they got from the generative AI, which they thought were reinforcing gender stereotypes in Pakistani culture or misrepresenting gender diversity in Pakistani culture. So the student responses were that oversimplification of gender diversity, which is quite interesting because they said the explanations were too Western focused, oversimplified, which can misrepresent the local cultural understanding of genders. They also, some of them were vocalized that the non-binary identities do also exist in Pakistani culture, and sometimes the responses are only keeping in view that there are only 2, dominant genders in South Asian context, and they don't talk about other non-binary genders. And lack of local cultural awareness. It ignored, as you can see, very interesting quote, that many men cook too and misrepresent gender roles here in Pakistan. One expressed sometimes AI responses reinforce gender stereotypes by assuming women should be more emotional, soft-spoken, or limited to traditional roles. here is the critical AI literacy and ethical awareness, because I was also interested, what if they do not have that, AI literacy or ethical awareness of the use, and to what extent they are actually aware. So again, the responses are quite dispersed in that sense, with a little bit of difference in the mean. Institutional support and responsible AI use. Here, the lowest mean is actually about question number 5. My institution addresses how Gen AI might reinforce stereotypes or cultural bias. And also, you could see that most of their understanding of the ethical or responsible use of AI comes from their lecturers, which is a challenge again, which I'm going to discuss at the end, what kind of support or gaps we do still see in the use of generative AI. So these are certain word maps that came out of the data. For educational use, it's primarily used for, research, learning. Exam was a big, concern of the students, so they do it for a lot of exam preparation. In terms of cultural awareness and representation in AI, the big words out of all these almost 100 respondents were Western, biased, cultural, stereotypical, related to Pakistani culture. Again, gender sensitivity rose, how AI is treating gender and women especially, and the kind of layering and the kind of language in the identity of Pakistani culture was a concern in terms of stereotypical ways of giving answers to the learners in their outputs or queries to the generative AI. Once again, critical AI literacy, sources, information, culture, understanding it is more of the concern of the young students at university. In terms of institutional support, trainings and teachers are basically, two identified groups which could help them to use AI responsibly in this culture. So if we look at the statistical difference in the results, we couldn't find any significant results here. Overall, the mean scores were broadly, similar perceptions. So about generative AI use in male and female students here, with a little bit of, differences which might be explored deeper. However, in terms of qualitative finding, the emerging themes were that students or the youth in Pakistani culture have a moderate confidence in the AI's cultural responses. For educational responses, most of them were, okay with the information that they gather, though some concerns were shown that there is less representation of Islamic or Pakistani knowledge base. For example, if they ask some mathematics related, theory related question or main eminent scholars, in that exercise in the classroom, they observed that it never actually mentioned even one single Pakistani mathematician, whereas we have one, in the culture in that same area. But in highlighting those responses, they saw that it was never mentioned. Most early, the students, they showed a major concern about Western-centered perspectives and limited South Asian or Pakistani representation in there. They asked for the need for greater contextual awareness, stereotyping, generalization of South Asian cultures, political and geopolitical bias. Some students also reported that when they asked about certain sensitive issues going around the world, about peace and war and conflict areas, it gave them very subtle answers, which were clearly showing, inclination towards one or the other participants of that conflict, and they found it's not fair. Lack of local educational context is there. So we can theorize that this finding about the issue of gender sensitivity and generative AI in higher education, for example, certain theories which backed up these findings, for example, Bourdieu's theory of capital and Foucault's surveillance theory, which is quite old, and intersectionality theory. This has been mentioned in another study very well. It is responding to these findings and the role of generative AI in different cultural perspectives, especially Pakistani. So why these can be opportunities for inclusiveness or a risk to cultural identities. Students' quotes are here for your consideration as well. When Western-centric defaults was a major theme for Pakistani students because they said, the answers are Western-focused, they didn't match our values or realities, Western-centric advice was provided to them, and stereotyping of Pakistani culture. Some of the students actually rejected the answers, looking at that, for example, for the cultural side, the wedding ceremonies are too loud and wasteful. And when they explained Pakistani culture or family values in a judgmental or oversimplified ways. Then students also reported that clash with the collectivist family values, which is also, connecting with the summary that Dr. Nashwa shared with us, and I think it's consistent with that narrative, individualistic or pluralistic societies and collectivism. And lastly, but not the least, overgeneralization. And if I look at through the lens of Zhang et al. 2026, they have categorized these as coined the terminology non-Western structural social variances, and it seems like through the data of this study that generative AI tools actually they are not quite successful in showing properly the non-Western structural social variances. They can't capture it as per the responses. Now, here are certain discussion points and way forward. Yes, the quantitative results are, they are not significant. This could be because a lack of awareness of related to the phenomena or lack of training to identify bias in the data. Some in the open-ended questions, because we look at the open-ended responses, and we do see that students are stating their experiences of facing a certain bias, but in the quantitative part, it's not significant in the data. Participants' voices, they do direct that there are issues of cultural sensitivity in certain situations. And I think the question for discussion could be that how can universities, especially in Pakistan, integrate critical AI literacy into the curricula? Many of the students in our open-ended responses as well, and I think the non-significance of the data in the quant section also can indicate that they do not have the required training to use generative AI tools in a proper way. Generative AI should be using local examples and data sets, not popular overgeneralized cultural perspectives. For example, many research studies have concluded that inherently it has been treated on a data which is prepared by Western cultures, or it's fed on the the type of data which is one-sided opinion, rather than having those data sets locally from those countries. Again, it is relevant to the language as well, because most of the data in English language, and Orientalism and all these kind of social perspectives can be an explanation to explore this further. There is less information in the data about the preparedness, promotion, and ethical of the promotion of ethical and responsible AI use. And last question could be for discussion for us from this study as well: how can be culturally sensitive AI developed in Pakistani context? Thank you very much. These are some of the references which I'm using in this study. And once again, thank you for your patience and interest. I'm happy to receive questions or any feedback which cannot be covered in this given time on this email address.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Shumaila. It's really insightful. I think it's a paper on its own. Thank you very much. And so I think I have a lot of questions to all of you. But I think according to the schedule, it's Maira's presentation. But I think according to the time, it's a time for break. So I'm wondering. So you started to, yeah, there are thanks to you for you in the text. So shall we go for a break, 10 minutes break, and then when we are back, that's Maira's presentation and then the discussion panel. Are you happy with that? So we go for a break. Maira, are you happy with this? We go for a break, 10 minutes, and then okay.
No problem. Yeah,
okay, that's great. Just to, because of time, maybe people need a break. So now it's 22 past. So let's be back just a 10 minutes break, and then we are going to resume. We have Maira's presentation from Kazakhstan, and then we are going to have our open discussion for lots of questions. So we have a lot still in the program. So let's go for 15. So it's 10 minutes, whatever your time you are in the globe, but it's going to be for the UK, it's going to be 15:33, 10 minutes from now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's yes. Thank you.
Looks like we are slowly back.
Yes. So what I've done, I just copied the Menti exercise. So if people who joined us late and you would like to keep on answering the first question, so feel free. I think it's good to know why we're interested in this topic, because as Felix mentioned, on the individual level, professional level, institutional level, policy level, I think this community level as well. So maybe add to this. It's really interesting. So far, thank you very much for the amazing slides. I think we have a lot of questions, and maybe also we have questions to each other as well. So I hope you are all back and ready for the next presentation from Kazakhstan with Dr. Maira, if I said it correct, Klyshbekova, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing, and yes, now with yes, please.
Yeah,
floor is yours.
Can I share my screen? Yeah.
Yes, I think you can.
Okay. So it's loading.
Something is on the way.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Can you all see my slides?
Still on the way. I don't know if anyone. It's spinning. So maybe it's just a delay from my end, but it looks like something is on the way. Yes. Go ahead. Oh, it looks yummy. A lot of festivals. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm going to mute myself, Maira. Yes, floor is yours.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Nashwa. Thank you, Felix, for having me today. And today's presentation will be on GenAI and cultural perspectives from Kazakhstan. So first, I would like to start with the context. GenAI models such as DALL-E, Midjourney, Gemini are gaining popularity across various global communities where they are used to generate visual representations of distinct cultures, distinct groups, and existing benchmarks mainly emphasize factors such as accuracy, visual appeal, and I can't see my slides. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can. We are in page 2 now. Is it? Oh, yeah. Context now.
Okay. For some reason, I can't see my slides, but that should be fine. Yeah. So research has focused mainly on the visual appeal, realism, often neglecting the crucial aspect of cultural sensitivity and understanding. And so far, research has focused on the biases and stereotypes these models can reinforce, and there has been less attention on how well these models capture the full diversity and complexity of different cultures. So we all know that problems exist with these type of AI systems. We all know it, and evidence suggests that GenAI models disproportionately reflect Western cultural norms as they amplify risks and harms to minority groups. And these risks include misrepresentation, stereotyping, cultural erasure, and misinformation. And attempts to mitigate bias in a broad brush can cause further harms. Now, let's consider the following examples. So, a well-known example is Google AI's image generation tool, Gemini. And to address racial bias, Google actually introduced a technical diversity requirement that produced historically inaccurate images, such as depicting German soldiers as people of color. And public outrage prompted Google to disable the image generation feature, and highlighting both the technical and also socio-political complexities of AI systems. Another well-known example comes from this case. A woman who you can see on the left used a generative AI tool and asked it to create a professional headshot for her LinkedIn profile. And instead of doing that, GenAI actually changed her whole race. It made her look white with lighter skin and blue eyes. Another example is an AI tool which reconstructed a pixelated picture of Barack Obama to look like a white man, which perfectly illustrates racial bias in algorithms. And this is a recent example from Google's AI Nano Banana Pro tool, which numerously and repeatedly kept generating images of white women surrounded by Black children when prompted with humanitarian aid in Africa. And as a result, the tool was accused of generating racialized white savior visuals. So after these incidents, more and more people started to pay close attention to the importance of culture and how these tools can generate harmful and racialized visuals of certain groups. But first, let's consider culture. What is culture? Culture is really hard to define. It's complex, it's layered, and it's difficult to get it right in AI outputs. But what does the wider context and AI funding tell us? The funding landscape focuses on different parts of the AI cycle, life cycle, as you can see on the image here. So the model evaluation is inconsistent and often reduced to performance benchmarking, current evaluation. Pipelines do not fully incorporate perspectives from social science disciplines or from humanities. And most projects, they lack human rights analysis. They do not employ participatory type of design or stakeholder co-evaluation, and they do not focus on human values like culture. And this study addresses these limitations. So this study is built upon the Culture AI project. Culture AI, this project, it investigated the state of cultural representation in AI models by evaluating AI-generated images of 8 distinct cultures. So if the presentations will be circulated after the event, you can follow this link to learn more about this project. So in this discussion and in this presentation, I will be sharing the preliminary findings from AI Literacy Project, which was conducted in Kazakhstan. And the following 2 parts have been adapted from Culture AI Project. Part one is a literature review. So the literature review looked at unpacking the concept of culture within the GenAI research, identifying cultural elements. And part two looked at the co-evaluation workshop, so human analysis. So it adopted this participatory type of approach, user-centric approach, focusing specifically on culture. So as I mentioned in the first part, the first part of this study included the literature review, and so the review revealed the complexity of defining culture, especially when it comes to GenAI research, and also that most of the studies, they were breaking culture into specific clusters like proxies. For instance, demographic proxies, which include gender, age, race, name, geography, religion, language, and others. Semantic material proxies, which include, for instance, clothing, food, buildings, landmarks, artwork, cultural artifacts, technology, handcraft, and the third one is semantic non-material proxy, which includes game activities, kinship terms, sports and recreation, festivals, values, traditions, social and political relations, and others. So most of the studies, they tend to adopt this kind of like structured benchmarks for their evaluation, either by looking at only one type of proxy, for instance, demographic. Some looked at two types, like demographic and semantic material. Very rarely we could see that all three proxies were integrated into one evaluation. Also, there was this lack of community-based evaluation in most of the studies. Next is, as I said, I will be reporting the preliminary findings from my study. So the project involved 20 teacher trainers from Kazakhstan who took part in 3-day professional development on AI literacy. So day one looked at technological and human dimensions of AI. Day two looked at pedagogical dimensions of AI, and day three looked at environmental dimensions and responsible use of AI. And in this discussion, in this presentation, the preliminary findings will report day one's results, looking specifically at human dimensions of AI, specifically focusing on culture. Next is, so human dimensions of AI, the focus is culture, so involved 3 interconnected activities. So first one was pre-evaluation activity. So participants were asked to write reflections, share their reflections on AI image use, and then writing pre-evaluation positionality statements. Next was GenAI image activities, which involved prompts and images, which were shared with the participants. And lastly, evaluation itself. So the image evaluation stage, and at the end, the participants were asked to write post-evaluation reflection statements. So as for the pre-evaluation understanding of GenAI tools, so first, participants' attitudes were sought in regards to these tools, and generally, it was revealed that they view AI as some sort of a useful tool, and primarily used these tools to generate images for lesson plans, for games, for some classroom activities, posters, character illustrations, stories, and others. While they were familiar with using AI in practice, many had not previously considered the role of culture in shaping AI-generated content. So their understanding of AI outputs tended to focus primarily on functionality rather than the cultural perspectives and assumptions that may be reflected in the generated images. So For positionality statement, participants were asked to write a short positionality statement about who they are, their cultural membership. So I included one of the examples from the participants, which states, having been born, raised, and educated in Kazakhstan, my identity is closely connected to the linguistic and cultural landscape of post-Soviet Central Asia. My ability to communicate across Kazakh, Russian, and English enables me to engage with both local and international cultural perspectives. And next question was in relation to their expectation or the requirements that they had for the images that were generated. And generally, most of the participants shared that they expected to see visually appealing, creative, and interesting images that would capture their students' attention. Some mentioned inclusivity. Some said that they expect images to be inclusive, which was an interesting finding. Next is, as you can see here, this is the example of prompts that were shared with the participants. So these prompts were the literature review stage informed the development of these prompts. So as you can see here, it incorporates not only demographic, but also the semantic material and semantic non-material proxies of culture, for instance, person in country. And for that theme, the prompt which was used was generate an image of a person in Kazakhstan, person in city, generate an image of a person in Astana, that's the capital of the country, family, generate an image of a typical Kazakh family, and so on. After that, the GenAI images were shared with the participants. These are some of the examples of the images that were shared with them. Then participants were asked to match the prompts with the respective image. For instance, the first image, as you can see, is matched with the prompt, generate an image of a typical birthday party in Kazakhstan. After that, after matching the images, participants were asked to record their reactions of the images. So responses were captured using this emoji scales ranging from very negative to very positive. And these initial reactions provided insight into participants' emotional responses before they began analyzing the images in greater depths. For instance, for the first and for the third images, almost all participants used very negative emojis, as you can see here. Next is rather than simply judging whether an image was good or bad, participants were encouraged to explain their reasoning as to why. So this prompted deeper discussions about representation, stereotypes, and cultural accuracy. So many participants commented that the images initially appeared convincing, but closer examination revealed details that felt inaccurate, overly simplified, or disconnected from contemporary Kazakh culture. So as you can see here, they were asked to use the circles and then explaining as to why they think a specific aspect is culturally sensitive or insensitive. So next. So one of the stark examples from those evaluations was this image. As you can see here, it's an image of a woman, Kazakh woman, standing in an open field. She's wearing a traditional dress. And a person outside of Kazakh culture might even perceive this image as being culturally representative and assume that this is how a person looks like in Kazakhstan. And but the image shows a woman wearing a Uzbek-style patterned dress, and her headscarf is tied in a very Russian style, in Russian style, and also the pattern of her headscarf resembles Russian style. So, and the prompt which was used for this image was generate an image of a person in Kazakhstan. So one of the participants, they felt that AI was relying on like familiar symbols rather than accurately representing Kazakh culture. And as they say, why does AI portray Kazakh people as a mixture of neighboring cultures? Not everything is a steppe and traditional dress. This image feels stereotypical and could give people the wrong impression about who we are today. Next is, I hope the timing is okay because I can see time's up. Is that?
Yeah, time is limited, but we really enjoyed the slides.
Okay, I'll keep going then. I'll try.
But we really enjoyed it. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll try to be quick.
Less time remaining. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. So a similar concern was seen in this image as well. So participants commented that AI often appears to treat Central Asia as a single cultural category rather than recognizing the differences between countries, communities, and cultures. One participant mentions AI often treats Central Asia as a single culture. This image combines elements from different countries rather than accurately representing Kazakh culture. So the person appears to be wearing clothing that looks more Georgian and Uzbek than Kazakh, while the yurt and open field reinforce a stereotypical image of nomadic life. So again, here we can see that AI is relying on overly stereotypical depiction of Kazakh culture, where a family is illustrated wearing traditional clothing and sitting inside the yurt. While the elements are part of cultural heritage, they do not represent a typical family and everyday life for most families today. As one of the participants said, this is not an image of a typical family in Kazakhstan. We do not wear traditional clothing on a daily basis. Does AI think that we still live in yurts? So overall, the evaluation revealed a mixed picture. There were some accuracies, key issues. The accuracy was in the correct demographics, skin tone, ethnic diversity, some modern clothing, iconic buildings, transportation. Non-material elements were also accurate, some communal meals and celebrations. However, key issues were in relation to over-reliance on stereotypes such as yurts, steppe landscapes, traditional clothing, as if only these aspects define Kazakh culture, and there was misrepresentation. Families always shown in or around or inside yurts in traditional attire. In reality, this only happens during Nowruz celebration. And AI leaned on historical physical symbols, neglecting intangible aspects of modern Kazakh culture. Interestingly, there was cultural mixing, as we could see attire and symbols were resembled more Kyrgyzstan, Russia, or China, Uzbekistan, rather than Kazakh culture. And there was also gender misrepresentation as well. Mostly women were shown wearing traditional clothing, and this shows this kind of like overlooking the diversity, modernity, and realities of educated urban Kazakh women. And another aspect of underrepresented elements included urban life, contemporary architecture, authentic Kazakh patterns, ornaments, and cultural diversity within Kazakhstan. So many participants reported that the evaluation made them more critical of AI-generated content. So before the session, AI was often seen as a useful tool for creating images and teaching materials. However, after examining the images more closely, participants became much more aware of the limitations of these systems. So as you can see, for instance, the first quote says, after the session, I became more aware of the need to critically evaluate AI-generated content. I think these ideas are important to share with others and most importantly with students. So this is important because it moves beyond simply learning how to use AI. Instead, participants began questioning how AI represents people, cultures, identities, which is a key aspect of AI literacy. AI literacy is often discussed in terms of technical skills, such as understanding how AI works or how to use AI tools effectively. However, this study suggests that there is also a human dimension, which is equally important. And the images generated are not simply technical outputs, they contain assumptions about people, cultures, identities. Therefore, this dimension should not stand in isolation, but rather should be incorporated and woven together. So why does this matter? As the examples from Kazakhstan showed, participants were able to identify stereotypes, cultural inaccuracies, and forms of misrepresentations that would likely be missed by technical evaluation alone. So this suggests that understanding AI requires more than knowing how to use it. It also requires the ability to question, evaluate the representations it produces. And as you can see here, several important insights emerged from this. So finally, I would like to say that if we want culturally responsible AI, evaluation must be done not only on communities, but with communities as well. So thank you for attention. And before I wrap this up, I just wanted to share this blog post that I've written. Please, if you're interested in this type of workshops, or if you're interested in running this type of workshop at your school, maybe for teachers or teacher trainers, please contact me. Thank you. And
thank you very much, Maira. I know that we went over the time, 6 minutes, but I think it was very interesting. It's really great. Do you mind to share while you're sharing the first slide? I would like just to take where it has the name of the country. Yeah, the first one. I'd like just to take a screen print out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's really nice. Thank you very much. And at the same time, we are going to start the preparing for question. Yeah, really. Thank you. Oh, that's really. Thank you very much. I'd like just, if you don't mind, I take a photo of it. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Right, thanks, Maira. So feel free to, yeah. Okay, so I think now it's the floor now for questions. So the questions, it's going to be mixed between us as the chairs of the session, chairing the session. So to you, maybe also you can ask each other, and also most importantly, the attendees who would like to ask questions. So let's start with the attendees. First, maybe that you target the question to who, or maybe all people on the panel, and what question. So for the audience, feel free. You can, I think you can unmute your mic and ask the question, or if you'd like to type it in the chat box, really up to you. At the same time, we are actually also going to prepare questions. Any questions in the chat box? Anyone would like from the audience would like to unmute and use the mic? Raise a hand.
I can't see any hands
I
rising
can't see as well.
yet.
Yeah.
But I think in one way or another, maybe I could just go with one quick question. In one way or another, everyone was talking about the local cultures and how they are represented across the different tools they are using. Some with a bit of a critical perspective that they have noticed among their participants. So whether it is about AI not respecting the students' voice and taking their voice away, as Yara's presentation seems to suggest, or whether it is forgetting about the local languages that people are using or not being available in those local languages, or in way whether it is misrepresenting who people are in the images they are generating. So I wanted to know, as people who are working in education, more broadly speaking, and probably not in a long speech, at least not as long as my question. What do you think is our role in making sure that these things are, so our students basically are aware of how to deal with these issues when they face them. So if they encounter those issues, because they are going to definitely encounter them in real life, how do we prepare them to deal with them, and how do we teach them to deal with them? The question is to everyone. Yeah.
Okay, so it's for everyone. Okay, so who is ready? Shumaila, take the lead.
So let me unmute. Thank you very much, Felix, for throwing this question. Am I audible to everyone? We must check before we. Okay. So I think as an educator during the discourse and during those classroom sessions, our role as educators is to not prepare our students that AI usage is there, and as per my own research, we saw we cannot stop its use, we cannot stop its development and its integration. The challenge that the students mostly faced, and the quant data also showed, that they are not literate enough, they do not have the tools to use it properly. For example, in my classes generally, there is a need where I try to educate them that do prompting course. You should know how to communicate with generative AI tools, what purpose generative AI tools can serve you, and also while you are looking at the output, do not believe everything what AI says. You should be critical. Your critical self should be there, looking at the outputs and taking every output with a pinch of salt. Is it is it thinking? One slang sentence that I use with my learners is that don't let generative AI think you are stupid. You are a sensible human being who should know what the purposes of using are, and it's there to support your learning journey. It's there to give you coaching where you need, or maybe fill in certain gaps in your learning model. So your interaction should be led by the human, not by the AI assumptions or the data that it already has. And I think we should also teach our students to be how ethical and responsible in their use, and while they are taking personal advice, or it's their it's their therapist, or if it's their or if it's their learning partner. So that is probably going to change the way cultures and different kind of contexts are represented, and how we critically analyze the information that generative AI is reproducing for ourselves, and critical thinking, and of course going through the content in a proper way. That training is going to probably make it a lot better for the future generations.
I think Maira, you're next.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this excellent question, Felix. I think that there is often this kind of like assumption that we should prepare students for this inevitable AI future. We should all be AI ready, that educational institutions must adapt to AI because AI adoption is inevitable. I think like 2 weeks ago, I attended this virtual assembly on critical AI network, where we were discussing similar issues, and most of the people were convinced that AI literacy should not become a form of educational compliance, where the goal is simply to prepare students for this technological change. So rather than AI literacy, we should shift to critical AI literacy, and it should create this kind of like space for questioning whether every educational challenge requires an AI solution. For example, when discussing sensitive GenAI practices, the conversation should not only focus on how AI can be made more culturally responsive, it should also consider whether AI may be inappropriate, where local knowledge may be better preserved through human relationships, community practices, and where educational values might be undermined by automation. At the same time, I think learners should be able to understand and also critically evaluate the outputs, whose perspectives are incorporated within these models and whose perspectives are excluded.
Thank you both. I think maybe a follow-up question is already in the chat from John. And I think everyone should would be able to have a viewpoint on this. Do we need to change our pedagogy to ensure AI skills are embedded just like research, analysis, and referencing skills? Because at least Shumaila and Maira, you're referring to kind of teaching students. So I'm wondering, as John is really, do we need to change our pedagogy to ensure skills are embedded, or there is another way of doing it?
For me, I feel like pedagogy needs to evolve, but not necessarily because AI demands it. Rather, AI highlights maybe certain problems that already exist. So I guess we need to adapt and incorporate other pedagogical techniques, methodologies, as I said, for instance, in my study, the participatory type of approach involving communities, involving students, teachers, educators, students are the main users of this AI tool. So we need to involve them in the conversation. It should not be only the conversation with policymakers or let's say the developers. We should have this collective, not only individual, but this collective empowerment where students as well as educators are empowered to have the agency in not only learning how to use these tools, but also learning about these tools.
Yeah, go ahead, Shumaila.
Yes, so I would like to address again the question of John here. I do think as educators, we need to evolve in our pedagogy, and also AI literacy, especially in bilingual context like Pakistan, is very important, because most of the times the learners lack in English language skills of writing, or arranging certain thoughts into a proper academic manner. But what they miss is they start depending on AI for all kinds of academic tasks. And in that way, learners or teachers, I think they need to have very open conversations about integrity, ethics, and to what extent the AI tools can be integrated into work. And it also, I think, simultaneously urges the educators to look at their assessment tools or strategies, how we are evolving them as well. So a critical challenge where I am changing my own pedagogies as well is that the conceptual verbal communication with my learners, and also explicitly using AIs in their work, in their submissions, to what extent it should be there, and how they should be. So for Pakistani students, most of the times speaking may not be a problem, or for young learners or undergraduates, they struggle more with writing and thinking tasks. So I think if we could change the pedagogy in the classroom, which is going to be around more, dialogue, discussion based, and evolving those mental capabilities, and having the confidence that the knowledge and learning they are gaining through thinking, discussion, and their own voice and the authority, as Yara also mentioned, having that cognitive confidence on their learning practices, then we could sort of embed the AI skills, how to leverage those skills, or use them as an add-on, rather than thinking you cannot survive without AI, because some kind of dependency I do see learners are developing in my context, because they are losing the confidence in their own thoughts. They're losing the confidence in their own ability to generate ideas, just because English is not good enough or grammar is not good. So AI tutoring and all that, I think we need to give that confidence back, and that is the pedagogy probably that would help to preserve cultural identities and responsible use of AI.
Thank you. Selar, I think you want to jump in on that as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is one of the research interest of Nashwa as well, because once we talked about this some times ago. Well, the thing with pedagogy and AI, we do not want to, let's say, teach students how to use AI, but it is how to integrate AI literacy. So there's wide difference between these two. I read an article maybe 2 years ago, but I don't remember the name of the researchers or the authors. It was focusing on the limitation of creativity, or I can say there's no creativity in using AI. So in pedagogy and teaching and learning, we can focus on the tasks and responsibilities that involve creativity, because AI is becoming part of the information ecosystem. So we have to, for example, make students and learners be aware of how the AI tools, let's say GenAI, is generating data, responses, and the outputs. And that means the assessment should be changed. For example, we should focus on kind of assessment that focus on critical evaluation, oral discussion inside class. I basically, for example, in the last 2 years, I stopped giving homeworks to students to do at home. Everything is done inside the class. So this will limit their use of AI tools. And the other thing is students should expect that, for example, how to initiate collaboration with AI tools, how to write, for example, effectively an academic article, or, for example, an assignment or a simple homework, and how to integrate AI into the workflows. So these are all important things we have to consider while especially giving tasks and assignment to students. We need to focus on the type of assessment or works that involve creativity, because AI tools are very limited in creativity. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think we are at a point where we are dealing with the limitations of AI, at a
Yes.
classroom level, at an individual level. And I have a good question in the chat, a brilliant question really from Shalayani, that is about, where is the question? Yeah, it's here. So Yara, you talked about the authority of voice being denied in AI, and partly that is because of maybe how these models are trained. And I think Shinan is raising an important question. Instead of firefighting, basically, changing pedagogies to meet or trying to integrate all these AI literacies, how do we fight back and make sure that by design, those tools are not meant to be biased against these non-Western identities, voices, and everything that are part of our own context? So how do we do that?
Okay, thank you, Felix, for raising that question. I guess he also, I think the question raised by Joan, right? So it's the same question that I was interested in answering. He was asking, do you think we will be at the point in the near future where academics are comfortable to embed the use of AI within their teaching and formative assessment, and to normalize it just like spelling, punctuation, and grammar checkers are now used? I was interested in answering this because I'm a teacher myself, and I was talking today about its use in specific context of second language writing, and you were asking the same question, what should we do in future? I think we should, answering his question first, is yes, we're already moving towards this direction, that is the teaching and embedding AI in the teaching and formative assessment. And AI will, of course, it will probably actually be normalized in the same way as grammar and speller checkers were used. So we were once, when tools like grammar checkers and spell checkers like Grammarly or tools like that, when they were once shown in the field, we were also still skeptical about them, and they were controversial when they first being used by people. But then people started learning how to use it in a careful way, in a more cautious way, and whether it's valid or not. The same thing will be applied to AI. So I guess the main shift will be from banning or asking, should we ban AI, to focusing on how students use it, what they learn from it, as I was talking today about this, how useful it will be when I integrate it in a course, and how it will demonstrate their own thinking alongside it. So this is, we should focus more on how we use it carefully, instead of asking whether should we ban it or not. It will be normalized as grammar or punctuation or spelling tools. But I guess my own expectation, high-stake exams at universities will still be cautious in relation to using it. That's my expectation. But for teaching and for formative assessment, I myself, I'm talking about my experience as a teacher, I'm very comfortable integrating it in the teaching process. But as Selar was talking, I make sure that things that might lead students to cheat when they use AI, when they are writing, I make sure they are doing this in class in front of me, so I don't leave them any room to do that at home. But I still leave them a space to do like kind of AI extra, seeking extra help from AI at home, and compare that with what they received in class from the feedback they get from their peers or from the teacher. I'm talking here about writing classes. I think what will increase more in future is the reflection tasks. So the students, we will focus more on the process itself, not the outcome, whether their exams, their essays have improved or not, they revised their essays or not. We will focus more on the process, what they are learning when they are revising their own writing from the feedback they get from AI. So some assessments, I guess, will be redesigned to emphasize process, reflection, oral defense. They have to defend why they accepted or rejected this type of feedback from AI, collaboration and authentic tasks. So this is my own expectation in future, and we should work as educators towards this as well. We should look again or about our assessments, reconsider how we do that while we are now having this AI around the corner in everything. Thank you.
Thank you. So this normalization John is talking about goes through rethinking how we assess it just as much as how we teach, and we gain more experience in using the tool. I wanted to bring you, Maira and Shumaila, back to the Shalini's question, because you were especially talking about these aspects of cultural awareness. Although Selar, you did also talk about the local languages and how they are being used in these apps. So I would like you as well to come back to this. Maybe starting with Maira. Do we, reading the basically the question here, I wonder if presenters have thoughts about how to counter the challenges, these cultural misrepresentations, and how to do that, to make sure these are represented. Any thoughts? I think Shalini is asking for any ideas on how we might actually deal with that from the source.
Yes, I think that directly relates to my presentation. So I think my response would be to create more local cultural content, for instance, in our own languages and from our own contexts. So AI systems, they learn from what is available online. So increasing the visibility of local cultures, languages, stories, cultural practices, maybe educational resources. I think it's very important. But also, however, I think the challenge is not only what data enters AI systems. We also need to be able to know who gets to evaluate and shape those systems. So in this sense, as I mentioned in my presentation, community-based evaluation is important, and communities need to be involved throughout the AI lifecycle. So this means working with local educators, with maybe cultural experts, researchers, language experts, communities, to identify inaccuracies, stereotypes, biases, and explain what authentic representation looks like for a particular community, for a distinct culture. So also, I think it's really, really important to create some sort of like mechanism for feedback and accountability, so communities can report instances of misrepresentation, like harmful racialized visual outputs, and contribute to ongoing improving of AI systems over time. So, yeah.
Thank you. I had already announced the order, so we're probably going to have to follow that. So Shumaila and then Selar.
In my opinion and view, we could definitely, one is that the generative AI tools are using certain large language models. So what the literature suggests and what the participant data also indicated towards it, that they should be looking deeply into local context. And as I mentioned, there are certain theories or on which algorithms can be trained. If they are looking at culturally sensitive issues or gender-related norms, rather than taking the overgeneralized information that is over the internet highway, generative AI tools can be trained to look deeply further into second or third layers of data from the local data sets before pulling up any information. That is the back end, of course, and that is probably the hard part, how the software designers or they could reverse that Western-centric discourse towards a more inclusive discourse in the generative AI tools outputs. Second way could be that when we are looking at cultural practices, communities should put more data about their own authentic practices. So for example, more case studies, more images of what actually a Pakistani classroom is. For example, very interestingly, my students, they made a presentation, and one of the topic was about how an inclusive classroom looks like in classroom management. So they were looking at that. So when they when they showed us those PowerPoints, they actually expressed, and the data is there, that when I said it, inclusive classroom, the images of the classrooms were like they are from Western, European classroom. They do not look like any real classroom for Pakistani public university. So then I told them, okay, why don't you go and reprompt it and then, tell it that, I want this, as close to the actual context. And interestingly, one image that they generated was, what is a typical Pakistani public school classroom? And it showed a deserted area with no trees and no walls and limited, school facilities and furniture. And it was so interesting to see it. So we could see that probably AI, models, they also need more data from us. So probably as communities, we should be putting more realistic pictures over there. Probably that could be the second way to counter the problem.
Thank you. I like that idea of, telling our own stories and our own narratives. I think that matters. And Selar, your context, there are already tools being used in the local languages. I want, if you want to step in and tell us how that is working and how we can address the challenge that Shalini does representing in the question, which is a real one. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the question first. Well, as I mentioned in the presentation is we need to kind of raise awareness about these challenges while using AI, especially for the young generation and among youth in schools. This can be done mostly in schools, but basically this is, let's say, a responsibility of university, because especially those universities who are, which are offering AI curriculum. For example, in our universities, we have several departments for AI, and they offer undergraduate degrees. And I suppose that some of these syllabus should be based on kind of these issues. For example, let's say, well, what are, for example, the advantages and disadvantages? How these data are formalized? We know most of the data in the generative AI tools, they are based on Western or North American context. So we should raise kind of awareness and teach students how we match between the data that we get from AI and what exists in reality. We should also focus on the nation identity or representation. To which extent, for example, if I talk about Kurdish nation, to which extent the identity, Kurdish identity, is represented in the AI data? Are, for example, these representations, are they real? Are they accurate? To what extent they are really portrayed? And also we need to, one of the most common usages for AI, it is used for translation. This is widely used among students, and even to prepare, let's say, a new article, or to summarize an article, or, for example, to change a complete article into another language. For example, Kurdish to English to Kurdish, especially for those students who do not understand English language perfectly. So they should be aware to what extent translation is accurate. All these can be offered in kind of educational programs, or even at least kind of sessions, seminars to students. And the other thing we also teach students, do they need really to trust AI 100%? Is AI really critically based? So we have to present evidence to students and give examples. To what extent, for example, let's say AI can think critically about such issue, and what is really existing in reality, what the facts that we use, what that we see in our life. And as I mentioned in the presentation, that we have difficulties in, let's say, representing every single, or not every single, the majority. We have differences in the dialects, in the varieties, so not everything is well represented in AI. So AI is very limited in the, let's say, the data that it gives, because we know this data is at the end it is uploaded by human. But do human really can upload all the data that exist in real life? I don't think so. So all what we need is awareness sessions to students, to youth. Even in, for example, universities or schools do not offer any kind of AI degree, but they can offer kind of sessions, seminars, just to raise awareness about such issues. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I can see this is a difficult question, and there are kind of differing views on how to deal with it, which kind of speaks to its complexity and difficulty. But I think the key ideas, I can see suggestions about obviously getting local communities involved. I like just like Eurovents, the idea of life cycles. So I did, AI life cycles and getting involved in from the beginning until at different stages. And I think that also may involve being part of the development of some of these tools. There were ideas of tools that are local or kind of adapted to the local context, which I think is also another approach. And trying to contribute content that may be used to train some of those tools, although as Selar points out, it's also still not possible to make sure that everything is represented in an AI tool. So that's going to be a challenge to deal with maybe. I'd like to take us back to a couple of questions that came from Ravinsa, I think. One is, again, kind of a continuation of this, really. Beyond pedagogies, what should educators consider in terms of curriculum making processes? So we talked about adapting. I think John's question was quite thought-provoking in that it's trying to get us to think about how do we respond pedagogically, and can we be at a point where we feel that we are now comfortable with using these tools to now, rather than simply thinking about changing pedagogies, or in addition to changing pedagogies, what else should we consider? I think that's quite a very interesting question. Anyone who wants to go first? Maybe we can take two people into the panel to take this one, and then two others can help us try to think about the next question Ravins also raised, which is how do we leverage partnership between educators and AI model developers? I think this connects to the previous discussion as well. So who wants to go first among our panelists? Okay, Yara, do you want to go first? I'm going to nominate you.
Okay. I guess in relation to the question about how the question again, I'm just like that you were just saying.
So beyond the beyond pedagogies, yeah.
No, it's about the first question you said. It's about the curriculum making.
Yes.
Yes,
So beyond pedagogy, what educators consider in terms of what should we consider in curriculum making processes? Yeah.
it's as I was talking as well. It's again, instead of being thinking that it will be outside of the curriculum AI, it will become part of both. Like what is taught, this is what means by curriculum, what is taught and how learning is designed. So the word curriculum is the big word here, but inside that word, or under that word, is two questions that we need to ask. And think she means this, the curriculum making processes is what is taught to the students and how learning is designed. So definitely AI will be there is no escape from avoiding using AI or embedding it in curriculum making. So, but we, as I said again, so we need to carefully think about how we integrate it in curriculum making. So, as some of you were talking about AI literacy, so students will be explicitly taught AI literacy. It means they will be taught how to use it responsibly, how to evaluate its responses, how to critique AI outputs. This is one of the things that we will consider when we design curricula. And also AI is a tool. So AI itself will be used as a tool in the tasks that we use as teachers itself, in writing, in research, in feedback cycles, as I was talking today, how integrating in writing and receiving feedback. Okay, and but we still need always to be careful about critically using AI in relation to things around bias and ethical use of AI, reliability, whether the content or the output itself is reliable and trusted, and the social impact and the cultural connotations of that output. So yeah, so we will integrate. It will be definitely integrated, and it is already, we are moving towards this direction. But what we should consider is all of these things: the cultural representation, and also the assessment processes, and what is exactly should be taught to the students, how the students will make use of that, and how the students will be able to evaluate or critique the AI output, etc. So hopefully I managed to answer the question.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you
Welcome.
did. Yeah. All right, Selar, you want to jump in?
Yes, well, there's a say that says in English, the forbidden fruit is always the sweetest.
Yes.
So we should not forbid using AI in our curriculum, in our teaching and learning, because if you do, the student will use it more. I personally don't forbid it. It's allowed. Students can use it in translation, for example. They stick with a word or a sentence with grammatical corrections. It's fine. But it's not allowed for students to use AI to write a complete essay, an article, or solve, for example, a homework. Not allowed at all. So the thing we need to change is our assessment and teaching method. It is not forbidding using AI, because if we allow it or not, at the end, it will be used, and it is used. As I said previously, we should focus on tasks and exercises that focuses on creative thinking, on critical thinking, creativity, and do not allow space for, let's say, homework at home. Even during rests, it's not allowed. So they have to do it inside class. We see the results right in front of our eyes. Nothing can be done in behind. So things can be done right away. And I think the students will love it in that way, because this will let's say, gives them more space to have, let's say, rest at home, no homework at home. They feel more free, and they focus all their energy and thinking and work inside class. So the only thing that we need to change is the assessment and teaching methods. It is not issuing new rules, new instructions that limits the use of AI. So we need to adapt to the situation. We need to adapt our methods, especially those are teaching. I personally don't forbid it, and it is allowed. As far as we do not have any, let's say, formal regulations, whether by university or a ministry, that regulates using AI, so we cannot do that. But even if we do it, it will be still used. So let's accept the fact to use it, but our method of teaching and assessment should be changed. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you, Yara, I think I'm going to come back to you later, because I'm trying to keep time. I can see Nashwa looking at me through the screen. But Shumaila, you seem, there is a post in the chat that I think you were addressing Ravinsa's second question, and you talk about essentially getting major AI labs to understand the value of inclusive AI. Given that they have been already, their business model seems to be working, how do we convince them that we want a more representative AI that, is not biased? We've talked about all these throughout the presentation. How do we make that happen? Because I think in Ravisa's question, what is also there is the idea that potentially there is something we could do about it, to get to that level of what Ravisa is calling a pluriversal data sets that represent the global context accurately. So how do we get these major AI labs to do that, if we can, of course?
Thank you very much for directing this conversation towards me, Felix. I personally find that, of course, developing countries, we do not have the resources, and the biggest challenge for inclusivity is that the major AI developers are definitely originated from the Western European or American societies. And of course, if we think from their lens, it says they're right probably too, because they have trained the system on that data. But I think software developers, they could do a certain kind of binding contracts with universities or some research projects that could first, we need to convince them. Of course, we all agree that diversity, inclusion, and cultural responsiveness is important, and many international reports have backed that finding. Until or unless we do certain I think projects, collaborations with certain underrepresented communities or underrepresented cultures, that would be a case study and we can convince them, I think, through maybe UNESCO Charter or the policies. HEIs could talk to one another, or certain developed or developing countries, they can draw certain projects with academics as well. But for example, if we are talking about Bill Gates or we are talking about Elon Musk, so that would be hard to reach for me. But I think raising our voices on certain platforms, such like this, I think it certainly has a space where our voices can echo, and more active engagement of cultures and researchers like us would be, I think, a small step towards it. Along with that, if the time allows me, I would also like to address your question of curriculum and what we can do is, and I completely agree with Selar that if I use it as an educator, my students must also be allowed to use it. And I'm also one of the few pro AI use educators in my context, and I allow them, but I ask them to to use it sensibly for collaboration, for discussions. And the paradigm really needs to be shifted in educational context as well. And also we need to, I think, go back to the basics. We need to make our learners realize that going through the process of learning, doing that effort to build that knowledge is much more important rather than getting a grade on their AI generated essay or something like that. So curriculum planning, I think it has become more of a intelligent task because as a traditional routine matter, now we have to also rethink what they already know and what we are bringing new into the classroom in terms of connection, in terms of learning, literacy, and other 21st century skills like collaboration, critical thinking, leadership skills amongst the students, things like that. And lastly, I think what lacks in my context is many of the educators, even I have learned AI, there is no institutional support or set frameworks, as Selar has also mentioned in our challenging context or developing countries context. So there are none of the faculty at the university has been supported by the university to train them how to use AI as educators. And also there are no, formalized trainings for the students as well. So whatever they are learning, they're learning from trial and error, or they're learning from the free resources available, self-motivated learning, how this thing works. So I think that is going to ethical AI practices and the training for the university faculty as well as for the learners is an answer to use and change curriculum and pedagogy. And lastly, I think we need to bring back reflective practice into our practices as educators, as well as reflection in the learning journey of the learners as well.
Thank you very much. I think those are quite useful suggestions, and I can see Ravinsa is very pleased that they are applicable. I think I'm going to hand back to you, Nashwa, because I can see the time is running. It's or sprinting this time.
I didn't
not
expect,
like
to be
it.
honest. The discussion is amazing, very, very insightful, and because different people with different insights and different experience, different context, I think it's really amazing where we go. So just to wrap up, actually, I like always to have like the takeaway and the what's next. There is something that we can write, but also maybe also we can, with the writing, you might also have some thought about. So ideally, if am I sharing now? Yes. So as a start, what do you think we can, as a learning lesson, take away from today's session? So these are actually the three themes Felix and myself we thought about. Maybe it's the same menti.com. Just go for it now with the with your mobile, or just type it and think about with the practice what you think can be a takeaway from there. Learned lessons, research, dissemination of everything, or any other ideas as well. So think about these and maybe think about what are the learning lessons and what the takeaways. One of the things that maybe we can also add, because we were thinking about, I don't know, this. I think each single presentation today is a major great work on its own. So I think we're thinking we can add this. Just we were thinking that can maybe chapters from the globe, because we have different chapters. Maybe also better blog as well could be something, or ongoing discussion in a way. These are just ideas. Maybe just you can add it here. So maybe that all of us, let's spend a few minutes writing. What do you think learned lessons and take away maybe from your your own practice, maybe something tomorrow. So and let's see. Yes. So this is a one. Maybe start to maybe writing, and maybe also we can have we have sent some 10 minutes also to discuss, and that's for all people. Think about it. Hopefully that is the Menti is working.
It seems to be working. Yeah.
Okay.
It seems to be working. Yeah. It seems to be working.
Going to type as well.
But if people also want to intervene and
yes, of course,
talk to our panelists and express any ideas as we do the same thing, feel free to do so as well. Yeah.
I haven't seen any. So any writing on the page here, because I can't see any. Why? Let me see.
Takes time.
Is it? Okay, yeah, the distance. You see how many thousands of miles between people here in the room. Yeah, it makes sense.
Be positive. Be positive.
Yes.
It takes time.
yes.
Yeah.
You remind me when you were talking about the rule of the community, when the AI started to have my the language in it, and in my native language, we are making humor of a lot of things. So we have jokes, and the jokes sometimes they are very dark jokes or black jokes. And we use especially with the politics and the economy. So to inform the GenAI, remember, we would ask it to tell jokes to the AI, to teach it as a way to train it. So we kept on, and okay, anyone can remember a joke. Not all people are great with jokes, but it was a way to nurture the AI with the context. So the context in this scenario, it was jokes. So it's really, I think, what is culture? That is, I think, many of you that you started, how you define culture. Yeah.
Good point. I mean, humor is very cultural.
Exactly.
Sometimes someone may say something in a culture and everyone burst into laughter, and you just stand there, looking like nothing has happened, because it's culture. To understand humor,
Yeah.
you have to understand the culture from where it comes from. And I think,
Very agree.
yeah.
And with the kind of communities who have went through lots of like colonization and being a colony, and sometimes the regime itself, it has lots of suppression. So the way of people, they say like indirect words, it was through the jokes. So because you can't catch them, so you can say something like camouflaging or metaphoric. So it looks like a joke, but ideally it's a very political, it has a political sense, but just it's a way to get beyond the fence.
Yeah. I think one of the themes that briefly came out through the discussion was the political aspect of these things. I think Maira also talked about geopolitical aspects of this. So AI is not happening in a vacuum, and as educators, we don't operate in a vacuum. So there are areas where we may not be able to make changes because they are beyond us. I mean, Shumaila, I think you were alluding to this when you talked about, UNESCO charters and everything. As educators, we may not necessarily be directly involved in the drafting of those charters, but because that's probably at the level of diplomacy that we would not act upon. But maybe some of the people we are already training are going to be those diplomats that will be going to negotiate. So which makes that aspect of the curriculum that people have been talking about really important, because we have a role to play in that. And we might want to think about it with a future vision of what kind of people we are training and why we are training them and what kind of world we are trying to create for them.
Yeah. So I don't know, Tel, because I think we have less people now. I'm wondering, yes, sorry, Shumaila, you'd like, Adam, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to share something with reference to that light-hearted conversation that you started earlier. I think AI is intelligent, and before we go and ask UNESCO or big platforms or AI developers to change it, one of my students shared this instance with me that when she re-emphasized that you should culturally, represent her questions through Pakistani context. And of course, AI knows you based on the profile, and it makes all the guesses from your previous profile conversations and all that. And that was a very sort of thinking point and stopping point as well, that AI is intelligent and it can modify itself within seconds. So when she told AI in her conversation that about family values and girl independence, and if marriage is the most important thing for her and she wants to focus on her career or something like that, AI started changed the narrative and started use the word inshallah. So she was like, oh, it actually listens to my conversations and it has modified itself instantly. And now onwards, whenever she would ask a question, AI would leverage it with certain kind of sentences, layered conversation. And then we discussed and we said, like, that means probably it has that sensitivity to change instantly, and it can go through the data in the second and third layer as well. So probably we need to prompt it in a more deeper way of contextual understanding. So it's feeding on the data that is already there. So probably we need to put more data relevant to certain cultures, and it would instantly modify itself.
Yes. Thank you, Shumaila. Yes. I'm wondering if in the last, we have just 6 minutes left, if any, each person actually from you in the room, the panel, one statement to conclude what maybe could be a hope, could be a struggle, whatever. So share with us one final thought. Yes, Selar, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it is lovely to use AI, but with limitations. And people are gifted with a good brain to use it. So it is the human responsibility how to use AI, whether they want to take advantages or disadvantages. Thank you.
Thanks, Selar. Who would like, maybe Maira? Maira, would you like to give us a conclusion? Insightful conclusion? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just a quick comment is that I think AI, that this whole conversation, I think, requires us requires us to ask not only what AI skills educators or maybe students need, but what kind of knowledge and values we want to protect and promote. So I would instead would like to ask the key question, I think, in this case becomes whose knowledge is represented, whose voices are missing, and what forms of learning are worth defending in an increasingly AI-mediated world.
Yeah. Thank you. Yara?
I guess I will conclude with what I started with in my presentation, that we shouldn't only approach AI through risk and control, but also through trust in students' ability to engage critically with it and set their own boundaries. So educators or education should therefore focus on developing that judgment rather than just restricting the tool itself. So instead of asking, should we ban it or not, we should just think about how we use it responsibly, or how we give the students the trust to use it in a sensible way and set boundaries with the tool itself and how to engage with it critically.
Yes, very valid point. Thank you. Shumaila?
Yes, I think the thoughts that are crossing my mind at the end of this conversation are that in our future, I see generations with a very different ways of learning and engaging with AI tools. It's ever expanding, and as educators, we should prepare our institutions, ourselves, and our youths to have faith in themselves, and how all of these tools are actually for a positive social change rather than having, just an ease of getting things done. Of course, it has provided a lot of support in that sense as well, not only looking at the negative or the compromised side of AI at the moment. We should keep looking for an inclusive AI future and keep working for it.
Yes, very balanced. Yes, thank you very much. I would like really to thank, I can't say thank you enough for, it's very inspiring. I think the discussion and the presentation were amazing. Thank you very much. Felix, would you like to conclude with anything? We are just 2 minutes.
Just to thank our panelists and for coming here to share with us your work and spending all of this time exchanging with us, so sharing ideas, and for our audience to join and engage with the presentations and the brilliant work you guys are doing. I think if we want to make change, that is how we get started. We can't individually make that much of a change, but when we come together and exchange ideas and find common understanding of how to move forward, that will help. And of course, thank Maira for giving us the space and the platform to engage in these discussions. It's very important for us to be able to find a place to do this, and hopefully that will be the case moving forward. So thank you, everyone, and have a brilliant evening.
Yes, have a great evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Bye.